You shut your car door. Quiet. A brand new phone sits in your hand like a little slab of the future. Then you glance at your old frayed charging cable on the seat, and it suddenly looks embarrassing. And that's how people lose years before they feel like they lost money. In the next couple minutes, I'm going to give you one question that exposes the real price of an upgrade before you swipe your card. Because the thing that drains your bank account usually isn't the big purchase. It's what the big purchase quietly recruits. Picture this. You walk into an Apple store. Your old phone still works. It's fine. The battery's just a little slow. The screen has that tiny crack you've been pretending you don't see. You tell yourself you need the upgrade. It's for work, right? It's a productivity tool. So you do it. You drop $1,200 on the new iPhone Pro Max Titanium, and you walk out feeling good. Not just excited, successful. Now here's the part most people don't want to admit. That feeling is the product. You get back into your car and you really look at it. Sleek, clean, premium. And that's when the chain reaction starts. Because your old cable, the one that's been doing its job for months, looks like garbage next to this masterpiece of engineering. It feels wrong to plug something that nice into a $5 gas station cable. So you fix the mismatch. You buy the MagSafe charger. That's $40. Then you get home and set the phone on your nightstand. The cheap plastic case you were using looks ridiculous on a titanium device, so you do it right. You buy the leather case. That's $60. Then you realize your old wired headphones don't even fit anymore, so you get the AirPods Pro to really get the full experience. That's $250. Illustrative scenario. Within 48 hours, what felt like a $1,200 purchase quietly becomes a $1,600 purchase, and you barely remember making the smaller decisions. They didn't feel like spending. They felt like correcting a problem the first purchase created.
Now, fair question. Isn't that just people lacking discipline? Just don't buy the extras? I get why that sounds right, but it misses what's actually happening. You're not just buying objects. You're buying consistency. And once one item raises the bar, everything below it starts to feel like it's failing an invisible test. Here's the one question I promised, the one that exposes the real price. What else will this demand from me? Not, do I want it? Not, can I afford the sticker price? What else will this demand? Because the real enemy isn't the phone or the bike or the cabinets. It's the hidden obligations you can't see at the register. And this isn't new. To understand why this pattern is so powerful, you have to go back to France in the year 1765. There was a philosopher named Denis Diderot, famous mind, co-founder of the encyclopedia. And despite the reputation, he was broke. He lived a humble life, old clothes, old rugs, a rickety chair in a dusty library, and he was fine, content even. Not because everything was perfect, because everything matched. Then Catherine the Great, the Empress of Russia, hears about his financial struggles. She admires his work and offers to buy his library for a massive sum, roughly the equivalent of $50,000 today, while letting him keep the books. Overnight, Diderot has money. So he does what most of us would do. He treats himself. He buys a beautiful scarlet dressing gown, a luxury robe, something that makes you feel like you've arrived. He brings it home, puts it on, looks in the mirror, and for a moment, it works. He feels elegant, wealthy. Then he sits down at his desk to write, and something starts nagging at him. The robe is magnificent. The desk is scratched, rotting, covered in ink stains. Suddenly, the desk isn't just an old desk. It's an insult, a clash, a mismatch that makes the robe feel out of place. So he replaces the desk. He buys a beautiful mahogany writing table. He sits down again.
Better. The robe and the desk finally feel like they belong in the same room. Then he looks down at the floor. His old rug, threadbare, worn, now looks like a rag next to the mahogany. The contrast is painful. So he replaces the rug with a plush Damascus rug. And you can feel where this is going, because you've lived it. The new rug makes the curtains look cheap, so he replaces the curtains. The curtains make the chair look like firewood, so he buys a leather armchair. Then paintings, sculptures, mirrors. He spends months obsessing over making the room feel unified until everything matches the quality of the scarlet robe. And at the end of it, he's broke again. Later, he writes an essay titled Regrets on Parting with My Old Dressing Gown, and he drops a line that hits way too hard for something written centuries ago. He says he used to be the master of his old robe, but he became a slave to the new one. That's the Diderot effect. The introduction of one new possession triggers a spiral of consumption because it makes everything else feel inadequate. We think we own our things, but in a quiet way, our things start managing us. Now you might be thinking, okay, cool history lesson, but I'm not buying scarlet robes. Right, you're buying the modern version, status anchors, lifestyle anchors, identity anchors. And today it's even more dangerous because modern marketing is designed to trigger the mismatch on purpose. Let me show you how it works in a place that feels innocent, getting in shape. You decide you're going to take your health seriously. You buy a Peloton bike, big purchase, maybe $1,500. You tell yourself, this is an investment. Then it arrives. And suddenly your old baggy cotton t-shirt and gym shorts from high school don't feel like clothes. They feel like you're showing up to a new life in the wrong uniform. You don't look like the instructors on the screen. You don't feel like a cyclist. So you buy the specialized cycling shoes, $150. Then moisture-wicking compression shorts, $80. Then the branded tank top, $50. And now the bike looks kind of ridiculous sitting in your cluttered living room. The environment doesn't match the identity you just bought. So you start building the space. A yoga mat, dumbbells, maybe a new smart TV so the workouts feel cleaner. You didn't just buy a bike, you bought an entire identity. And the moment you buy the identity, your old life starts arguing with you. You didn't wake up one morning craving compression shorts. You were trying to remove a feeling, that small, itchy mismatch between who you say you are now and what your stuff says about you. That's the core psychology here. Identity consistency. As humans, we crave coherence. We want the outside of our life to line up with the story in our head. And when one anchor item shows up, something high status, high polish, high identity, it quietly sets a new baseline. Everything below it starts to feel like it's failing. Not because it stopped working, because it stopped matching. Now, fair question. Isn't this just vanity? If I'm not trying to impress people, I'm immune, right? I wish. But the trap doesn't require an audience. Half the time, the person you're trying to keep up with is you. The version of you that walked out of the store feeling like you've leveled up. Watch how fast this leaks into everyday life. You've been a Honda Civic person. Jeans, normal sunglasses, cheap furniture that you don't worry about, fast food without thinking twice. Your life feels internally consistent. Then you stretch and buy the Porsche. In that moment, you didn't just buy a car. You upgraded to character you're playing. And Porsche people don't wear scratched sunglasses. Porsche people don't have cheap IKEA furniture. Porsche people don't eat off paper plates. It's not a rule anyone says out loud. It's a pressure you feel in your chest when you look around and the rest of your life doesn't match the anchor.
So the car pulls your wardrobe up. The wardrobe pulls your vacations up. The vacations pull your luggage up. Not because you're greedy, because you're trying to keep the story from falling apart. This is why fake it till you make it can be financially toxic. When you fake it by buying a Rolex before you can afford it, the Rolex doesn't sit quietly on your wrist like a neutral object. It becomes a manager. It demands a suit. It demands a car that doesn't embarrass it. It demands dinners that fit the image. A high-status anchor doesn't just cost money. It costs options. You can lose your freedom long before you lose your balance. And here's the part that makes this dangerous. Most people never calculate the real cost. They look at a price tag in isolation and ask, can I afford this $500 item? They don't ask what the item will recruit. So let's do a quick proof beat the way real life happens. Not with spreadsheets, but with a chain reaction you can picture. Classic example, home renovation. You decide to renovate your kitchen. You budget $10,000 for new cabinets. That seems reasonable. Cabinets, one line item, one project. Then the new white modern cabinets get installed, and now your yellowish 10-year-old refrigerator looks disgusting. It works perfectly fine, but visually it clashes. It breaks the consistency. So you finish the job. You buy a stainless steel fridge, $2,000. Now the fridge and cabinets are sleek and modern. Then you look down. The vinyl floor looks cheap and dated next to everything you just upgraded. The contrast is unbearable. So you rip up the floor and put in hardwood, $5,000. Now the kitchen is a masterpiece. It looks like a magazine cover. But it's an open concept house. So when you stand in that beautiful new kitchen and look into the living room looks like a dump. The old brown sofa looks sad. The paint looks dull. The kitchen renovation leaks. So you paint the whole downstairs. You buy a new sectional.
And when it's all done, you realize the final cost wasn't $10,000. It was $35,000. Illustrative scenario. But the feeling is real. Those cabinets were the scarlet robe. They were the anchor that made everything else feel inadequate. If you'd kept the old cabinets, you never would have noticed the floor. You never would have hated the fridge. You were fine with it before. The upgrade created the dissatisfaction. And this is the midpoint flip I want you to hold on to because it changes how you shop forever. You're not buying an item. You're buying a bundle. A phone bundle, a kitchen bundle, a fitness bundle, a lifestyle bundle. The sticker price is just the admission ticket. The rest is what your brain starts demanding to restore harmony. Now, fair question. Okay, so what's the solution? Never buy anything nice? Live like a monk? No, that's not the point. The point is to stop letting one purchase rewrite your baseline without your consent. Because there's another twist here, one that explains why upgrades can feel good for a day and then start feeling heavy. Sometimes an upgrade is a downgrade in disguise. When Diderot had his old robe, he didn't worry about ink stains. It was functional. It was flexible. He was the master of it. When he got the new robe, he became careful, stiff, afraid to ruin it. He started serving the object. Same thing happens when you buy a brand new, expensive white couch. You stop letting friends drink red wine in the living room. You stop letting the dog jump up. You start saying careful in your own house. The couch doesn't just sit there. It changes how you live. You become the curator of a museum, not the resident of a home. And if that sounds dramatic, think about the last nice thing you bought that made you relax versus the last nice thing you bought that made you anxious. Time is the real currency. Stuff is just how we spend it. So how do you break a pattern that's basically hardwired into you? You build firewalls.
Not willpower, firewalls. First firewall, you predict the chain reaction. Before you buy any upgrade item, new car, new console, new suit, you pause and ask, what else will this demand? Not in a vague way, in a specific way. If you buy the PS5, will it demand a 4K TV to see the graphics properly? Will it demand an extra controller? Will it demand a subscription to PlayStation Plus? Write down the full system cost, not just the item cost. If the PS5 is $500, but the system cost is $1,500, can you afford the $1,500? If the answer is no, don't invite the anchor item into your life because it won't come alone. Second firewall, you cap your inventory. The Diderot effect thrives on accumulation. You add the new thing, but you keep the old thing. And now your brain is trying to reconcile two baselines at once. You end up buying more to make it all work. So adopt the buy one, give one rule. If you buy new sneakers, an old pair leaves the house. Donate it, sell it, trash it. New toaster, old toaster goes. It keeps you in the mindset of a user, not a collector. Now, fair question, but what if I'm upgrading because the old thing is broken? Then it's not an identity anchor, it's maintenance. That's a different category. The danger is when the thing works fine, but the mismatch is what drives the purchase. In the next part, I'll give you the third firewall, the one that feels backwards but resets your baseline faster than anything else. And then I'll walk you through a simple 7-day action plan you can actually do without turning your life into a spreadsheet. The third firewall is the one nobody wants to do because it sounds like moving backward, but it works. Strategic downgrading. Sometimes the only way to stop the spiral is to deliberately lower the baseline on purpose before the baseline lowers you. Drive a slightly older car than you can afford. Wear a watch that's simple and functional. Keep your anchor items humble enough that they don't demand supporting cast members. Because once your anchors are modest, the rest of your life can breathe. If you drive a beat-up Toyota truck, nobody expects you to wear a $2,000 suit. You have freedom. You can wear jeans, you can eat a burrito in the car,
You can live without constantly wondering if your stuff is on brand. And yes, there's a social angle here, but there's also a private one. When your baseline is low maintenance, you stop hearing that internal voice that says, "This doesn't match." That low maintenance identity is the most profitable asset you can own. Not because it's virtuous, because it preserves cash and preserves options while everyone else is busy curating their museum. Now, fair question. So are you saying nice things are bad? No, nice things are fine. I like nice things. The problem isn't the nice thing. The problem is buying the nice thing with no plan for what it will demand. Because consumerism is designed to make you feel incomplete. It's designed to make you feel like you're one purchase away from being done. But the Diderot effect teaches the opposite. One purchase doesn't finish the puzzle. It scrambles it. It resets the board and forces you to start over. And the scariest part is how quiet it is. Nobody announces, "Hey, I'm about to enter a multi-month identity upgrade spiral." It's just a charger, just a case, just shoes, just a nicer fridge, just paint. Until you look up and realize you're working to maintain coherence, not to build wealth. Let's make this practical with a quick test you can run in real life, something you can do standing in a store aisle, thumb hovering over Apple Pay. When you feel that itch to upgrade, pause and do a 2-question scan. First, what is the anchor item here? Second, what are the 3 most likely follow-up purchases it will demand? Not might be nice, demand. The things that will start feeling wrong once the anchor arrives. Phone, charger, case, earbuds. Bike, shoes, clothes, space setup. Kitchen, fridge, floor, living room spillover.
You don't need to be perfect. You are just trying to surface the hidden bill while you still have a choice. If those follow-ups make your stomach tighten, that's your signal. Not that you're weak, that you're seeing the real cost. And if you still want it after that, fine. At least you're consenting to the bundle. Here's the part most people don't want to admit. The biggest spending decisions aren't about numbers. They're about identity. And identity spending is sticky because it's never done. There's always something else that could match a little better. So let's close with a simple 7-day plan to break the pattern without living in a cave and without pretending you'll never want anything again. Day 1. Pick one anchor area that's been draining you. Your phone tech, your gym identity, your home renovation itch, your car image. Just one, not your whole life. Day 2. Do an inventory audit in that one area. What do you already own that still works, but you've started to treat as not good enough? Those are the items the anchor is bullying. Day 3. Run the chain reaction cost test on your next upgrade urge. What else will this demand? Write it down. Yes, literally. Not because writing is magic, because it slows the spell down. Day 4. Implement buy one, give one in that category. If you're thinking about a new pair of headphones, decide which old thing leaves. Make the trade real. Day 5. Do one strategic downgrade on purpose. One visible thing. Not to punish yourself, just to reset your baseline. Maybe you stop babying the white couch. Maybe you keep the older car another year instead of needing the new one. Maybe you choose the functional watch. One small move that says, "I'm not curating a museum." Day 6. Set a cooling off window on anchor items. Not forever, just enough time for the emotion to pass. The Diderot effect thrives on momentum. Interrupt momentum and you win. Day 7. Choose one freedom statement you actually believe. Something simple, like, "I'd rather have options than matching." 7 words, not a motivational poster, just a line you can repeat when the itch hits. Because at the end of the day, the goal isn't to never upgrade. The goal is to upgrade without becoming a slave to the upgrade. Don't let a robe run your life. If you want more on building real wealth that doesn't rely on showing off, check out that next video where I break down the coast fire method we talked about last time. And if this saved you from making a stupid purchase this week, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Don't buy the robe.